Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the McGonagall Boxing Podcast. So the IBF have come out 2 days ago and said to Daniel Dubois he's got the green light to have an optional challenger next up, which means he doesn't need to face his mandatory, and more importantly he doesn't need to face Anthony Joshua in the rematch. So where is he going to go? Now personally, if I'm being honest with you, I like him to have a fairly routine fight. I mean, he's had back-to-back killers, hasn't he? He's had Miller, he's had Hrgovic, and he's had Joshua. And before that, he had Usyk. So, I mean, he hasn't had it easy. So, listen, if he needs to step down a little bit before having another huge fight, maybe he gets the winner of Usyk Fury, then so be it. Personally, I think he could still, maybe not, obviously, I don't think he'll sell out Wembley again, but he'd certainly sell out the MEN Arena or the O2 Arena after his last performance. So, I mean, the choice is his really, but personally, I think, you know, let's make no mistake, he's done incredibly well winning that IBF title. Although it was vacated from Usyk, I get that. He's still, you know, done brilliantly to beat them fighters. And he's a deserved world champion right now. I'd like him to maybe fight Gerald Anderson, who got done by Bacoli, didn't he? He's still young, like Dubois, but he's inexperienced and he's not as good as he thinks he is. And I think Dubois, but he's a name. He's a loud talker, he's a seller, he's a name in the States, not so big in Europe, but, you know, he's people, the boxing fans know him in the UK, and he will talk and sell, and I think Dubois knocks him out. And quite frankly, I'd love to see that. I can't stand Gerald Anderson. I think he's a loudmouth and he doesn't back it up like he saw against Bacoli. And I think Dubois will do the same thing to him. But listen, that's a great fight. You know, whether we like it or not, Gerald Anderson's still like a name. He was touted, wasn't he, by Golden Boy as being the next big thing a few years ago. He's a big guy and sells well. But I think Dubois will put a hole through him. So that would be a good fight. I think he needs to avoid Bacoli. Bacoli is a nightmare. And the problem is he's not a huge name. It's not a huge draw. I mean, it's high risk, low reward, isn't it? So I don't think he'll take Bacoli, although Bacoli should be, you know, personally in a world title hunt very soon. I mean, he's a serious problem. You saw what he did to Anderson. Hrgovic rematch. Again, that's high risk, low reward. I mean, Hrgovic is a name, but he's not a huge draw, and he's a dangerous fighter. And that was a nip and tuck affair, wasn't it? They were going blow for blow for blow, and at times Dubois looked buzzed. So that's a high. I would say Dubois would be 60-40 favourite, but you know, Hrgovic could definitely win that fight. He was a big favourite when they first fought, wasn't he? I think people thought he was just going to grind Dubois down. So, you know, I think Dubois has to be careful of that fight. I'm not saying he can't do what he did last time. Huge result last time. And he could get to Hrgovic again. Hrgovic is getting no younger, of course. And Dubois is full of confidence. But again, that's another tough fight. A very tough fight. And then, of course, you know, maybe he goes down the route of a Hugh Fury. You know, like a comfortable fight. Hugh Fury's got no real power to worry Dubois. And, that's a name. You know, something like that. Or, you know, that would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see how he goes. But I think he needs to avoid Zhang, doesn't he? That's one fighter you don't want to fight. As you saw in the last couple of fights, and I think Dubois would knock him out now. I really do. I think Joyce's chin, his biggest strength, is even starting to go. So that could be, and he could get his revenge. So that could be a good fight. Chisora, I think Dubois beats up Chisora. Let's not be fooled by the Joyce fight. I mean, Chisora was multiple time knocked out virtually in that fight, and I think Dubois does the same. I mean, but again, Chisora's a name, so he could, after that last fight, he could take that. So, I mean, listen, the options are there. I think he does need to choose wisely. I think maybe the Don Charles connection with Chisora might pull Chisora away from that. I don't think Don Charles would like to see Chisora get knocked out by Dubois. But the options are there, and the world's his oyster, and he's earned that right after 3 incredibly tough fights. Well, not the Joshua fight, but, you know, he took a big right hand in the 5th at least. And, 3 big names, 3 intense training camps. That's the thing, isn't it? So, I mean, it's exciting times for Dubois. It really is. He'll probably fight, I reckon, by end of year, probably December. So, yeah, I mean, good luck to him. I think he sits and waits the winner of Usyk Fury, like we all do, and then he'll make his move from there. But I'd like him to say, like I say, I think that Jared Anderson would be perfect. A Joe Joyce rematch, Hugh Fury, European level kind of, a fighter that's not going to pose him any real serious threats would be nice for him personally, before he goes on to the big fights. So yeah, but where does this leave Joshua? Well, I think ultimately, he's going to have to look at this Usyk Fury fight, and I think Hearn will probably try and make a huge offer to the winner. But ultimately, he's going to have to climb his way back up, isn't he? I think he needs, to earn his place back up for that world title shot. And obviously that means having to go through the likes of Zhang and Bakoli, which are nightmares. So Joshua needs to weigh this up. Is he happy to do that? And ultimately, a pay cut, isn't it? He needs to weigh that up. I think there'll still be pay-per-view fights, but I'm not sure there'll be Wembley Stadium sellout fights anymore. So until he gets back up to that world title level, but he's going to have to go through some killers, and Hearn will try and direct him smartly to the title. But obviously he's a huge name, but it's looking tough now for Joshua. If he doesn't get this immediate rematch, it's looking very tough for Joshua, in my eyes, to become world champion again. Now, the last thing, of course, we're overlooking is Fabio Wardley. Wardley is a nightmare for anyone, as you saw in the Fraser Clark fight. And, if he goes through Dubois, that's a serious fight. That could go either way. I really honestly believe that. I mean, Dubois could catch Wardley early and knock him out. There's no question, because Wardley's unorthodox and he opens himself up to be countered, to be caught, as you saw him in the Fraser Clark first fight, and even in the rematch when he got done with an uppercut. But, Clark was so buzzed and Wardley countered him beautifully. But he can also be Dubois' worst nightmare. I mean, he throws punches from all kinds of angles, and he holds power, as you saw against Fraser Clark, who's not exactly chinny. Slow, yes, but not chinny. So, I mean, for me, 60-40 Dubois. I think you still have to favour Dubois' power and ferocity and speed. He's younger, he's stronger than Clark. But I mean, Wardley's a nightmare, honestly. Or what I've seen from him. I mean, he can really do some damage. And, he's hungry. He's only 29 himself. And he's holds some power. So I would avoid Wardley like the plague. That should not be an optional fight. That should be mandatory. But I think Dubois could knock Wardley out. But I think Wardley could stop Dubois. I really do. Could weather an early storm and tire him out, and all these kind of crazy angles, unorthodox, hard to read. Could just mess with Dubois' mind and frustrate him, and then tire him out and then stop him. So that's a dangerous fight. Do not pick Wardley. Although he's being touted round, Wardley is the bogeyman of the division, I'm telling you now. Yes, he's still got a few improvements to make. He's got to shore up his defence a little bit, but he's a nightmare for anyone, and he's getting better, more powerful, more spiteful, and he's got that spite in him, hasn't he? He's got that street spite. You can tell when he fights, that nastiness. He's a great fighter, Wardley. He's going to be a problem, like Bakoli. Let these guys, Zhang, Bakoli, Wardley, fight each other. That's would be my option if I'm a champion, and only deal with them when they're mandatories. I'd like to see Dubois have a nice, comfortable, optional touch, and I think he will do with Frank Warren and Don Charles. They'll be smart, not on a ridiculously easy fight, but you know, maybe European level fighter that's going to keep him sharp, keep him warm, ready for that big Fury Usyk winner. And that's my advice for Daniel Dubois. But you know, exciting times for him. The world really is his oyster. For Joshua, it's looking tough now. He's going to have to call upon the great Eddie Hearn, so to speak, to really negate him around this now, because he's have to climb his way back up. And whether he likes it or not, he's going to have to fight a tough fight. Maybe not his next one, but certainly the one after, if he wants to get back to that world title shot, because I don't think he's getting the immediate rematch now, which is a problem. All right, guys. You know, a lot to go on in the heavyweight division. But yeah, I'm sure it'll play out in the next couple of weeks or so. And yeah, I'll catch you again soon on the next one. All right, guys.